All right. So this is the third tutorial or the third step. I want to talk a little bit more is beyond just using color to show the different data set. You can actually export this map back to Rhino, and then you can use some grasshopper technique to create zones. Right? The zones is actually like a polygon, which is an enclosed shape. It will give you the result like the color is actually bleeding outside the streets. So that, I mean, the meaning about that is, if you think about this part of the city is blue right now, right? Is kind of isolated from the rest. I could actually using a zone, a region to indicate this color, right? There are many different ways to compute. For example, in GIS, you can use a buffer to create the zones. You can also use other computational way to do, which is very actually expensive to do. So I will just using a simple way. It's actually Photoshop way. It's less accurate, but it's really, really quick and easy. So first thing I will do now is zoom out, and I give this map a little bit bigger thickness. So here in the properties, I want to, right-click the symbols. In the property of the symbols, I will give the width to a bigger one. Let's see, 4 or 5. So what you'll see here now is this line became kind of fairly fat, right? It's kind of like a big shape now. And then I'm going to export this image into Photoshop. All right, let me save the file first. Oh, before we do the Photoshop, I do want to show you one more thing. Actually, in GIS, to complete your map, you definitely need this legend, right? Be readable for the people who have no idea what these numbers means. We know the number right now means the integration values. So you see the biggest value is 970. The smallest value is -1. I think it's because some lines is completely isolated from the rest. So that is -1. So it's always a good idea you include this number in your map when you present to other people. So a quick way to do that is actually generate a legend. Okay, it's still saving. I think the map probably is a little bit too big right now. Okay. Or it might be because I opened too many programs at the same time. And also it's doing the video recording. Okay, it's saved. So I want to show you, in order to create a legend, you want to go to View, Layout View. All right. So here's the layout view. I can zoom out a little bit, put a window there. So this is a place I can insert a legend. Legend is like the symbols. So I will use the the current layer. Basically, just click a bunch of next button. It should automatically generate this legend for you. So here we go. So in the future, we'll give this to other people. You should always include this guy in your map. Just make it easier to read. Okay. You can easily export the map. As you know, the most popular format is PDF, right? It makes sense. You can also export as a JPEG, either way, or TIFF. But right now, I'm not really worried about this legend because I'm going to transfer this to Photoshop to do some kind of zone manipulation. So let me just simply let me simply go back to data view, which is here. I will capture the screen. All right. With the snipping tool in Windows, I'm going to capture this guy, and then I'm going to save it. Wait a second. I think I should deselect. Do I have any selections? Okay, I want to deselect. Just make sure the color looks right. Alright, and I'm going to capture this guy. And I save this as a JPEG file. Let's see, Beijing RGB. Alright, so these 3 colors RGB. So now I can use Photoshop to open this file, and then I can blur this file actually to create zones. Yeah, definitely I opened too many programs. Boy, I should turn off some just to make the computer easier to run. I will turn off the QGIS. Alright, and then I'm going to open this image. As you know, this image is full color, so when I do blending, I'll filter with blur. You can actually see the color will mix together. Alright, so open the file. And here's the file. And then I'm going to do blur, Gaussian blur. So blur this file a little bit. So it sort of give you the zone information of this, this part of the city, right? You know the green part is isolated, the red part is not. Okay. You can do another type of image. I think sometimes RGB is better because people can read. But the most popular one is actually gray color image. So here, instead of using RGB, I can use the gradient from black to white. This one. Or I can, reverse white to black. Where is the white? Oh, here we go. White to gray, actually. Right. So here, you get a rough idea. Is the color now indicate, which part is more connected and which part is more isolated. Right? It really depends on what kind of data you want to display. In my case, I probably only want to kind of highlight the place which is isolated, from the rest part of the city. So I will using the black color to just highlight these, isolated parts. So now if I capture the screen and I save the file, maybe Beijing 3, and open that in Photoshop. Right, you got a file like this. I will do the same thing. Gaussian blur. We blur a little bit more. So here we got idea. The big black dark region indicate that is the area of the city, right, which is kind of isolated. If you run this in Cincinnati, you will know that is Mount Adams or other city. There is some kind of place might have this color. Okay, so this is what you do. So you blur that image, and then I will save the file as Beijing blurred. All right, so here we're done. And then the last step is actually loading this image back into Rhino. So we kind of work on a big circle, right? So start from Rhino, now we work back to Rhino program. So here's the Rhino program. I'm going to run Grasshopper. Alright. And in Grasshopper, later I will give you a file which you don't have to create this from scratch. So this is the Grasshopper file. I'm going to open a script. Let me see if I have the script or not. XML height field. Yeah, I think the file name is height field. Just later I will definitely make sure the file is online, so you can definitely use it. Let me see. I have different version of this file. What is the problem? Height field Cincinnati. All right. Yeah, I will give you this file later. So this is the file looks like. The simple thing I will do is just let me see, create a rectangle shape and then update this image. Right, this is only two things you need to do. So for the rectangular shape, it's a good idea this shape is exactly match with the one you cropped in Photoshop. So I will just set this guy in. So you see, well, this is actually an image showed up. This image is actually Cincinnati, so I'm going to actually double click, replace that with my new image. That's Beijing blurred. All right, so we got a new image. To make it easier to see, let me see if I can turn off the layers. All right, so you can see that is the image looks like. But here's the question: why I do this? I mean, you can get this in Photoshop, right? So what is the point to do this in Grasshopper? The reason is in this Grasshopper file. Let me define a point. I create contour lines based on the color. So if you identify a point, okay, this program will automatically cut the image based on the color. So you have this kind of hard zone, then you see all of these contour lines. It's just another way you can easily present your data, not just by straight color, but now we are talking about contour lines. And if I overlay this contour line with this guy, so you can get a sense of how the data is distributed across space, right? The geospatial data. And also if you overlay with your streets, this information should be much easier to read. All right. And if I, let me see. If I display this map in 3 dimensions, in perspective, you can sort of see here's a original Rhino map, and here is a contour lines, which is here. Actually, I move this down. This contour lines is actually 3 dimensions to show the data as hills. Let me disable that so you can see this is actually the height field of that image in Photoshop. It's pretty cool. And also you have this, pretty nice. Why the contour lines not displayed? Okay, contour lines displayed now. So the contour lines here, the height field is here, and you have the control about the height. So if you want to make this one floating, you can make it float above or lower. All right, just many different ways you can play. And this is the control about the exaggeration of the height. You can exaggerate that. So I can move this up. Now I have this kind of values, right? Since I'm dragging the file from positive to negative. Anyway, I think this is just many different ways to represent data in Rhino. The one more thing I want to talk is in Rhino, the display. In the properties of Rhino display, by default, I think the lines are displayed as 1 pixel. Where is that control? Rendering, maybe. Yeah, I think I did that somewhere. Oh, appearance, probably. No. Now, do you guys remember where you can control the line weight display? I think I did that a long time ago, just forgot how to change it back. Nobody did that before? Maybe toolbars, views, display model. Okay, here we go. View, display, and wireframe. By default, if I use wireframe, the line thickness is 1 pixel. I somehow enlarge that to 2, just to make it easier. You guys could see. I can do 4 if I like. Now you got really fat lines, I think. No, let's choose back to wireframe. Yeah, you can definitely play with it. It's right here. Surface edge, and also there is another one. Control the clipping plan, transparency, edge thickness. If I change this to 0, let's see what happens. Not much change. So shaded, in the shaded mode, you can see that's the display, wireframe. Well, anyway, I will let you to figure that out. So the option is here in the wireframe. Objects, curves. Oh, here, I have to go to very specific curves. So right now the curve display has 3 pixels. So if I change this back to 1, you can see the result is totally different, right? So this is 1 pixels, and you can change it back to 3 pixels. This just make it easier later if you guys want to capture the screen. You can get exactly the line weight you need. All right, I think that concludes about this tutorial. Just make sure you spend some time play with these sliders. Especially the slider here. One's control the height, another control the exaggeration of the 3D. You can make it really, flat or tall based on this. All right, that concludes this tutorial.